Hello there, and welcome to Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast. My name is Jamie.
And I'm Mark.
And we are an overcaffeinated couple who enjoy sitting down with a fresh pot of coffee and, watching large sweaty men throw each other around till one lays down for the 1, 2, 3. And this week we're talking about AEW.
AEW Dynamite, AEW Rampage. It's going to be a while till we talk about some AEW pay-per-views. We've got Revolution in, I think March.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're talking about Dynamite from the first? No.
Dynamite was 12/28.
Happy New Year. Wait,
yeah,
before we
welcome.
start anything, Happy New Year.
Welcome to the first podcast of 2023.
Now, of course, you'll be hearing this on the 2nd of January, but either way, we hope you had a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful New Year, filled with all kinds of sweaty men pinning you down, doing whatever you want them to
For
do.
their holidays?
I mean, some people are into that.
You have absolutely got that right. But at any rate, let's talk about Ethan Page and Bryan Danielson, who started off this week's episode of Dynamite.
And what a way to start it off. You have a seasoned veteran going up against a guy who is probably either in his prime or getting close to his prime. Definitely not in his prime of what we've seen on TV. Ethan Page took on Danielson in a match that was a wonderful showcase of how hard-hitting Bryan Danielson is and how honest to God, how strong and powerful Ethan Page can be.
Absolutely. There was a couple times where Ethan Page literally picked Bryan Danielson up, like off of the ground, threw him up on his shoulder, and gave him power slam. And it was a great execution of his strength.
And you got to think, Bryan Danielson. He's an average man's size. Like when we're talking wrestlers, you got a couple. Most wrestlers are usually on the bigger side. 220, 230. They're usually larger. But Bryan Danielson's like just a normal run-of-the-mill guy. He's probably like 190, 200. He's probably like 5'10", maybe 6 foot. I've heard he's actually a little bit shorter than that. So, I mean, this is Ethan Page manhandling a normal-sized man like he was a baby.
Yeah, he really did.
Numerous times did he deadlift, suplexes and, I mean, just the feats of strength that he did. It was insane. But Bryan Danielson did not fail in any way to impress by doing as many technical things as he could with somebody as large as that was.
He did a lot of technical things, but he did those very quick, hard-hitting moves that Bryan Danielson does, where he comes in with the knee, he comes in with just unbelievably hard-hitting shots. And I think this honestly was one of my favorite matches that I've seen of Ethan Page in AEW. He looked phenomenal. But before we get too far into what happened in this match, we have to take a moment to talk about what happened as the match was starting, and that was that MJF was up in the balcony, and he had who he said was the only hot woman in Colorado with him.
She was pretty hot. I mean,
she looked a lot like Shotzi.
100%. Like she had the alternative goth. She's a wrestler. I think I can't remember her.
Daddy Doom.
Daddy Doom.
DADZI.
And when you look at her, she has like the leather officer cap, and she's got the little bullwhip. Like, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know what that. I don't know if that was just a dig at Colorado.
Oh, for sure, it was a dig at Colorado.
To be honest with you, I didn't really like the whole MJF aspect of the match.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of corny and unnecessary.
It was, because it wasn't like he was going to start like making out with her. We all clearly know that he's engaged.
Well, even beyond that, there was for somebody who's talking about how, I don't know, he's better than everybody. He's sure as hell has no problem showing his face and just trying to rub it in everywhere. And it's just like, I don't know. Maybe I'm supposed to hate it.
You know what?
But it was just one of those like, I could have done without that, because it wasn't like he was supporting Ethan Page and talking shit to Bryan Danielson, which obviously that's what they're building up to.
Right. It wasn't like it bothered Bryan or distracted him in any way.
Right. I don't know.
I think it was just there exactly like you said, to kind of annoy you.
Right.
Kind of just to be like, what the hell is that? Just to kind of put him in there without bringing him down.
But it kind of felt like they were trying to. It almost made Ethan Page feel like the third wheel. Like you knew, like, oh well, this is obviously the storyline with him is going to be ending really soon. Because,
I didn't take it like that, but I can see that way.
But you know what I mean? Like, if you're trying to put over one feud over another, and you're just, I don't know. Either way, I'm thinking way too much into it. Great match. It was,
it was really fun. There was some really Again, hard-hitting 10 technical moves.
Right.
One thing I really liked was Ethan Page got some leverage off the bottom rope and gave Bryan Danielson a cutter.
Yeah,
I was like, that was really unexpected. There was a lot of really unexpected moves and a lot of I don't know. It was great. It was exactly what I expected in that regard, but there was a lot of good just progress on Ethan Page and a good way of showing it off.
Oh yeah. 100%. I mean, he's a great talent. And I think he's really been able to hone that in on, because he's been on a lot of dark. He's been on a lot of elevation.
And he's wrestled a lot. He does a lot of independent stuff. He was on Impact.
So he's no slouch. Like he's got good moves, but I think he's there's
finally
an
getting the
artwork.
recognition.
There's an artwork to doing it on a television.
Yes.
And I think a lot of wrestlers in AEW not need work, but a lot of wrestlers before they get on TV need that work because they've never been on TV before.
Sure.
They've been in a wrestling match, and things work in a wrestling match because at any angle you have fans looking at you, but in a TV aspect you have the main camera looking at the ring. That is the main shot.
Right.
And we'll get into that later on with Death Triangle and the Elite and how their camera work plays into the story.
Right.
And you have to understand that. And I think Ethan Page has really gotten a good handle on that. Obviously, Bryan Danielson's got years of that behind him.
Sure.
But this, like you said, it's just been a great showcase of where he's been able to flourish into the wrestling television style.
Right. And he's been a heel, obviously, for a while, but this is a different version of it. It's more aggressive heel, not just the, oh, you hate me? Okay, I see why. He used to be with Scorpio Sky. Now he's like, you hate me? That's fine. I'm going to beat the shit out of you.
And it seems like that's going to be the recurring theme with the firm.
And it shows, Ethan did not pick up the win here. Unfortunately, right. I think, like you've said before, he picked up, Bryan Danielson ended up picking up the win with
he made him pass out.
The lamest ending.
When it first started happening with the Blackpool Combat Club, it was like, okay, cool. It was kind of, they're this overly violent faction, and it's great. I just feel like every single match that the Blackpool Combat Club is in, somebody passes out. Somebody gets into a submission and lights go out, eyes roll in the back of their head. I don't know. It's like the surprise roll up or the distraction finish. It just
right.
I feel like AEW has pulled that card so many times in the past 6 months.
It's overdone.
It's way overdone.
Yeah.
It's way overdone.
I think it would have been okay for Ethan Page to have tapped to Bryan Danielson in this circumstance.
Oh, yeah.
I think Ethan looked great. And of course, it's Bryan Danielson. It's not like it's a bad loss for Ethan Page. It was still a great loss.
Right.
And I think that would have been okay in the circumstance, but they still had to be, overdoing that finisher.
And there was no need for him to pass out.
No.
You make somebody look just entirely way too weak. Do it every once in a while. You do it as a shtick on a promo where somebody gets, attacked from behind and they get put in a crossface and they pass out from that and it's one and done. Great. Okay, good. But when you end matches time and time again, and I feel like we've talked about this before, where we're falling back into where Bryan Danielson's getting win after win after win after win. Not that I'm not enjoying his matches. I just feel like, after a while, how many times are we going to see him win before we're just like, okay, why are we putting him on TV? We know he's just going to win. And the only reason he doesn't have the title is because he hasn't gone against the title.
Right, he hasn't fought MJF yet.
You know what I mean? And it's, maybe that's what it is. Maybe they're building up to Danielson finally losing his streak, because he's been on a nonstop streak unless it's a tag match.
Right.
Maybe.
And then he takes that big L to MJF, which just elevates his career even bigger.
Yeah, he needs that.
No, he doesn't. Up next, we had a real quick backstage interview with Wardlow, who was talking about his upcoming match that is the main event for Dynamite with Samoa Joe, when he came out with a pipe and cracked Wardlow over the knee with it.
Samoa Joe ran out and just obliterated his right knee, and I don't know, that was about it. But I really kind of, honest to God, like this. It was only a 60-second long segment, but I really like this because it was a thread that they strung throughout the entire show.
Right.
It wasn't one of those, it was a segment and then it was never mentioned again. This had something to do with the main title, and throughout the entire night they kept referencing back. We still haven't heard a medical update on Wardlow's knee, if he's going to be able to participate. Granted, it was, not the most exciting thread throughout the entire night, but I do enjoy that AEW was looking at that to making you interested in watching the show.
Yeah, it was a good storyline. The way to hold the story together.
Right, and it grasps your attention. And like I said, it was a little bit far-fetched for me. I think it was a little bit cheap. But it kept you interested. It's like, okay, what are they going to do? Wardlow's got a bad knee now.
Right. Good nod to Nancy Kerrigan-esque, Olympics situation here.
And we'll talk about it later, but I really enjoyed them planting this. I'm always about them planting them seeds, but this was like a seed within the show, and it made you want to sit there and watch the tree grow. It made you want to see, okay, what are they doing with this now?
Right. Because even Excalibur said, as far as we know, the match is still going to happen. It was one of those things that nobody was supposed to know if this match was actually going to go down.
Right, and they had numerous times where they referenced, he's not cleared yet. They were basically saying we don't know if he's going to be cleared to be able to participate.
After that, Hangman Adam Page was backstage with Dark Order, and Renee Paquette kind of went in there to poke the bear and said, don't mean to be rude, which it totally was. Just want to ask you if you're medically cleared. And he said,
to fight my husband.
Yeah, he basically said that he wasn't cleared at the moment.
Doctor
was trying to get better. He was hoping within 2 weeks he'd be better.
Well, they had a doctor
wink,
there.
Nudge.
They had a doctor there, kind of going, well, with your, just egging on the fact that they're gonna have the match January 11th in front of all the TNT officials.
Exactly.
Same night, which is going to be the match 7 of the Elite versus the Death Triangle for the Trios Tag Team titles. I mean, it's if you follow wrestling, there's no way you don't understand that this is that January 11th is more than likely they're gonna match up.
Oh,
and they're
for
finally
sure.
gonna have the match that they weren't able to finish.
Exactly. But it, again, is funny because they're like, we're not sure if he's going to be able to make it. And then eventually, I think it's on Rampage, Jon Moxley comes out and he hits his promo in in the ring about if you can make it, Hangman, and if you're cleared, I'll see you in LA. And it was just like, okay, we're kind of doing the same thing. If he's cleared.
I did find it funny that Jon Moxley, a man who at one point when he was cutting a promo with MJF, couldn't remember the day of the pay-per-view.
Right.
The only one of 4
Are we fighting Saturday or Sunday?
And now all of a sudden we have Jon Moxley and he's able to call out the venue, the day, the prestige of how much this match and this day means.
If you can make it.
To the prestigious LA whatever.
LA Forum or whatever it is.
He had that shit like The Rock written on the back of his hand. I got to get this shit right.
Yep. So as we had said before, Renee Paquette was the one doing the interview, and she said, well, Hangman, I shouldn't be telling you this, but Jon Moxley has his match next, with Claudio, and Hangman kind of sits up, and Dark Order kind of holds him back, and no, don't do it, you're not cleared, and the whole thing was ridiculous, and it just led into Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli versus Top Flight. There's been a lot of matches between these particular guys lately.
Yep, we had Jon Moxley took on Darius Martin last week, which was a great match between the two of them.
It was.
That Rampage, we had the 300K Trios Tag
Casino Royale Battle Trios
with Cheese. And they ended up, Top Flight ended up wrestling or being the last 3 with Claudio. They ended up eliminating Claudio for the win. So this is now culminated to, it is now a tag match between Jon Moxley, Claudio, and Top Flight. And if I didn't know that wrestling wasn't pre-scripted, I would have thought these guys just wanted to beat the shit out of these 2 kids.
It felt legitimate, real. I really like that they've taken the opportunity for people like Jon Moxley and Claudio and Bryan, and I know this is all Blackpool Combat Club, but these people to be these seasoned veterans that come in and put these other guys over, because Top Flight looked great no matter what. But in this scenario, they looked fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
They just know how to put people over and make everybody look really good. But Darius and Dante work so well with each other. Of course, they're brothers, but they just have a great dynamic of being able to bounce off each other's energy. The energy
knowing
was
the
just
timing
off
of each
the
individual
roof. Exactly. They just They sync up perfectly, and I actually really enjoyed this match.
It was a great match. It really was. The two styles, and WWE has a hard time sometimes doing this, and I feel like AEW doesn't as much. I'm not saying that the matches are better than AEW or WWE's, but I feel like a lot of AEW wrestlers are able to combine the flippy floppy wrestling with that hard hitting, strong style that Jon Moxley and Claudio's not really strong style, but that just extremely, extremely violent style of wrestling. And they're able to add them together and combine them so well and use the brute strength of one tag team and the agility of another tag team and create moments that they're great. They're just amazing. And especially with how young they are, how young Top Flight is, the sky's the limit with those two.
The potential is just limitless.
I don't know what their contract looks like with AEW. I'm assuming they're locked down for at least a couple of years. But honest to God, I could see them making the transition over to WWE once WWE becomes, it kind of brings more younger talent of the newer generation into the fold.
Hopefully for Tony Khan, that's not the situation.
Of course not. Like I would not. I don't want to see Top Flight go anywhere. But I'm just saying they have. I mean, good God, could you imagine Top Flight in NJPW? Like the styles, it would be insane.
They clash very well with that. And that's the thing about Top Flight is they clash well with any style. Anybody they go up against, they're able to just kind of work with them. Like you said, the flippy floppy, but also the very hard hitting styles of everybody. And in this match, Top Flight would not go down. Claudio and John were giving it literally everything to try to keep these two down. And they just kept bouncing up and they kept coming back. And at one point, Claudio straight turned and just hit. Yeah. I don't know who it was. I think Darius. It was Darius, yeah. With the strongest lariat and just knocked him out.
It's because Jon Moxley had Dante out there and hit with that massive paradigm shift, which left him on his head.
For 3 whole seconds. It was insane.
It was good. Jon Moxley, of course, giving the finger with the fuck you to the camera, and I think we're starting to see shades of a little bit of heel turn for the BCC.
For both, really.
And I'm excited to see. I mean, Jon Moxley's he's teetered that line. He's only been on the face side because fans have gone over about it. But great match. They absolutely obliterated him. And actually, I think they ended up getting a pin. I was thinking that this is another one they made him pass out, but they ended up getting another pin. And I whatever was left of Top Flight, I'm sure they have used up their entire company's budget of ice packs because I couldn't imagine how sore they are. But great match between the four of them.
Really good.
So following a very exciting tag team match, we had Hook came out and he just did another job. Or Baylum Lynx was his name. Got maybe a minute 15 TV time of the poor guy.
That's with entrances after everything.
Well, the guy didn't even get a name. Like he didn't even get an entrance. Like they just straight Hook came out, jobbed him out, and
but the Action Bronson barely stopped speaking before. It started again.
And we see Stokely Hathaway and the Firm come down.
Lee Moriarty, Big Bill.
They came down and went to they started attacking Hook. Like same shit we did last week, except now Jungle Boy came from the back with a 2x4.
Yep.
And very gently hit Big Bill in the back a couple of times. And I guess we're setting up a feud or a tag team. I don't know. I don't know.
And Jungle Boy versus Lee and Big Bill.
I don't know what we're doing here. I'm really kind of enjoying the Firm, but this is the one thing I'm not looking really forward to. Like
I agree. I think there's absolutely no reason to have Hook be in a tag team with anybody.
No.
Or Jungle Boy. I mean, you just took him out of a tag team forever.
Yeah.
You can make Jungle Boy a serious competitor without putting him in another tag team.
Put him against Hook.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Have them fight up against each other. And there's obviously something that's brewing between Hook and Big Bill. And okay, but I'm not really sure where you're going to go with that, because if you have Hook absolutely annihilate Big Bill,
he's gonna make him look like an absolute
This is the
bitch.
only match he's ever had. Is the one that they're setting up for. He hasn't even done a match as a signed AEW employee.
Right.
You can't just knock the shit out of Big Bill, have Hook do that, and expect Big Bill to have a really good career in AEW. I feel like that's a really shitty move.
I'm hoping this is going to be Hook's heel turn.
Okay.
I'm hoping that Hook, they start teasing a tag team between Jungle Boy and Hook. They start teasing good times between Jungle Boy and Hook. And then when Jungle Boy's back is turned a little bit, Hook realizes the writing on the wall and attacks Jungle Boy.
Yeah.
And turns heel.
But didn't that already happen like a couple months ago with Luchasaurus?
Yes and no, but I think Hook needs to be heel.
Yeah.
I think he's stagnant as a face. He comes out, people cheer, he jobs somebody out, and then he goes in the back. If he ever loses as a face, it's going to ruin him.
Oh, I absolutely
It's going to ruin his credibility.
But he should be coming out and like interfering in people's matches. He should be going into people in the locker room before the matches start and beating up somebody so the match doesn't happen. Like he should be like an enforcer in a sense.
A heel.
Well, like a mega heel to like where the matches aren't happening because
he has
attacking
the potential
people,
to be.
you know, like things like
100%.
that, or breaking up matches because he won't stop beating the shit out of somebody, or he
going above and beyond after the bell.
Yeah, well, he doesn't stop at the rope break. He goes until
I mean, he does that.
5.
He hits his finisher and he holds it for 5 extra seconds after the bell, but then lets him go. He stands up, grabs his belt, walks out.
Right.
Doesn't give a shit. You develop the character. Give me something to bite into with him.
I agree.
Like, I love Hook. I love his energy. I love his lack of charisma, I guess. He's got a very Orange Cassidy feel to him, but I feel like you got to do something with it. You can only do so much with him as a face, doing 45-second to 60-second matches every week or every few weeks.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to Death Triangle versus the Elite. Match 6. Falls count anywhere. Where the hell do we start?
I don't know. It was chaos out the box. We didn't even get into the ring. We started in backstage hallway.
Yeah, like a 5-foot wide hallway.
If that.
Yeah.
Brick hallway, and they went through pseudo catering and off of random. Like, I always wonder what all that shit is back there. You know what I mean? They're just like random silver and black things that are stacked. I'm sure they're like
there was
bleachers.
like a storage rack or something. I don't know if it held chairs or what it held, but Pac did a moonsault off of it. Right.
They had.
I don't know how I got up there.
I love the 2 random tables that had food on them.
Yep.
Next to all of that, like they're just like, put those two tables right over there. Just go ahead and put those with the cookies on there. I did read. I was trying to catch up on some notes. I was reading somebody on the Bleacher Report reviewing. Talking about the match, so it just refreshing my memory. And he said, Matt Jackson took out an entire tray of cookies in one swoop move, and now he has heat with this reporter. And I thought that was just. So apparently, some people took some issue to him destroying an entire plate of cookies.
I'd like to think that the fine wrestlers of AEW in the back did not let those cookies go to waste. My first thought was maybe Johnny Hungy. Maybe, I don't even know what his new name is. Former Preston Vance.
Oh, yeah.
The hell did he say his name was?
I wrote it down and I didn't write it down again. Preston Vance is no longer Preston Vance. He is
something that sounds
I don't know.
way better.
Great.
So we finally do make our way out to the ramp down to the
ramp, not even to the ring.
Not even to the ring.
We finally get out the hallway and into the entrance and through the gorilla position and now up to the top of the ramp.
And Ray climbs up where like the Titantron is and does a tornado.
No, he didn't even climb up. He appears.
Yeah, he just
fucking
there.
Shows up. Like, and this is one of those matches where people just, there's Ray just on top of the thing. And
you have to give the cameraman the absolute biggest regards to how well they kept track of everybody, because these guys are so intense and so quick, and everybody's hitting moves on everybody at the same time, and they didn't miss a beat.
And it's funny because you see a lot of, like, we were talking about the Claudio Mox and Top Flight match, where that paradigm shift that he hit on the outside, that it was like half of it was missed by the camera crew. or whoever was choosing the cameras.
Yeah, they had to do a replay.
Kevin Dunn fucked it up and didn't choose that one, so they had to do a replay. And that was just a tag team match. This was 3 sets of 2 men fighting in all different parts of the ring. Yes, 3 sets of 2 men.
I had to think about it. Yep.
I math good.
You did.
But they had to keep up with the action, and they did a very good job. There was a couple spots they missed. The pin at the end with Kenny, they missed like the first one, and they showed up like halfway through the second count. It was about the only thing they did. So if anything, they got about a 90%. But a 90%
for this much action,
a 6-man tag anywhere falls match, great match.
So before they even got to the ring, there was a great spot with Matt Jackson, and he did Northern Lights on Pack all the way down the rampway, and eventually ended up picking up Ray as well.
Got a double. Great series event. You had
insane.
You had one of the most vicious knees by Kenny Omega.
Yeah, after that tornado,
he came out of the hole and just absolutely destroyed Ray. Just put him on his ass.
I felt it from home.
Oh yeah, it was the entire match. These guys must have sat down 6 weeks ago and like, okay. I mean, obviously the Lucha Brothers and Young Bucks have had their. I mean, they've all had their matches against each other.
The Elite must have worked on this the whole time they were out.
They must have. Like, well, I mean, to be honest with you, like, that's a whole monster we can go into.
It seems like it's been planned for a long time because of how well
a lot of thought was put into
the moves and the precision of everything worked out. But also, got to take a moment to say that Kenny Omega looks phenomenal
for somebody who was out for as long as he was, for as many injuries, and for the severity of injuries. Yes, you are 100% right. He, out of everybody, looked, honest to God, the best. If you know those most improved awards that kids get throughout the school year, 100% he would have gotten that because he has caught back up to where he was and then gone above and beyond. And it's a good damn thing because he's got a hell of a match with Will Ospreay coming up here in a couple of days.
Oh, man. Unfortunately, with the time zone difficulties of Japan, it's on Wednesday, actually.
On Wednesday? Okay.
Wednesday morning, and that's, I guess, one of the reasons why a lot of the AEW guys did not go over to Wrestle Kingdom was for that reason. They have Dynamite the same night.
Got you. That's a shame.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, but...
Well, we will be keeping our ear to the ground. I get up fairly early in the morning for work, so I will probably be the closest one to hear anything.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one of those whenever you get home from work, it's immediate watch.
Right.
The heat between these two guys have been going on for so long. Again, when Kenny was hurt, Will was out there talking a lot of smack. I mean, he was in AEW wrestling matches while Kenny was out.
Right.
And this is finally happening. And
we did get a glimpse. We did get a glimpse of them because it was 3-on-3 between them, but it's never you and I have never watched them 1-on-1.
Yeah.
And I think it's only happened 2 other times.
Yeah, but the promos between these two have just been insane. The shit that Kenny said about Will Ospreay, basically saying that he knows he let the fans down and he shouldn't have put such, a big plate, a big meal on Will's plate.
Right.
And
well, actually, Will just recently did an interview prior to Wrestle Kingdom talking about Kenny Omega. And he even was very similar in being recognizing the accolades of Kenny Omega and what his abilities are and how talented of a wrestler he is. But in the same stroke, same thing. He says, but he gave me the torch and left, and I have been running with this torch and doing better than what Kenny Omega has done since he's left. We're getting on a tangent, but
I know. We're talking about AEW, but I'm going to take a little bit of a left-hand skirt and
skirt when I drive.
What do you think the odds that Kenny Omega is going to win that belt off of Will?
I think
this is the
IWGP
United States Heavyweight Championship.
I think this is the final torch passing, and I think Will's going to win. Now, will I go as far as saying that I think that Will's going to kick out of the one-winged angel? Possibly. I think this might be it. But I think about this, though. Kenny Omega. You can't argue that in Kenny Omega's mind, NJPW is the top of the pile of wrestling.
Of course.
AEW is right along with it in his eyes, but you know damn well that his bread and butter is NJPW.
Absolutely.
That's what that kid grew up on. That's what he grew into, and that's what he's developed and made a name for himself. I could see Will Ospreay becoming that, taking the reins of the eastern portion of wrestling compared to the western portion where Kenny Omega will probably reside, where he's originally from, where he's starting to get beat up and getting towards the end of his career. Let's not be silly about this. He is really starting to get beat up, and you can't do this for much longer. He's my age, I believe. And I mean, I'm no athlete by any means, but I feel it getting closer to 40. You know, it's you're deteriorating, and I could see if he would want to end it on top in his own company, on his own soil of, you know, basically where he lives, you know.
Oh, sure,
but going out on top in Japan, where he made his name, where he is a legend in his own right.
But also, Kenny has been one to hold titles for other companies and be a part of AEW. You know, when he had his reign as champion, he held several other titles. He was the Impact champion as well.
And NJPW and AEW have a very, very strong relationship.
Right, so it is possible that he could win it. Kenny was actually the inaugural champion of this particular belt.
Right.
In 2017, Kenny won it for himself for the first time anyone had ever won the belt. So,
well, we'll see here in a couple days.
Would be very interesting.
We will see here in a couple days. But coming back to the Trios tag match, the Elite ended up getting the win in again, we were talking about camera work. We had...
And we're talking about the One-Winged Angel.
Right. We had Pac and Matt Jackson in the ring. And Pac had him in... Oh, God, I can't remember the name of it, but that gnarly submission that Pac always gets everybody in. And it looked like he had him, but the camera split over to Kenny Omega and Rey Fenix, and he had Rey Fenix in upside down on his shoulders, and hits him with the One-Winged Angel through 2 tables from off the stage, off the whatever, and is able to loop his legs around and get the 1, 2, 3, and mere a second and a half after the 3 count from Rick Knox, Matt Jackson taps in ring before the bell even rings.
Right. The Wayward Sons is playing.
Which I thought was weird.
Wayward Sons playing as Matt's tapping.
And Pac rolls over, still believing that he won. They announced that it was the Elite that have clinched Game 6, and we're going to a Game 7, which is going to be a ladder match in SoCal on January 11th.
Right, where the Young Bucks are from.
Holy
shit.
TNT and TBS and Warner Brother executives are going to be in-house watching.
And these guys just don't disappoint, you know? And again, we talk about it every time. A lot of people just really weren't excited about all these matches that keep happening with the Young Bucks and
I was
Kenny
one of those.
Omega and Death Triangle. I know you were. Once I think Kenny announced the stipulations, I really think that elevated everything. And the idea of these guys putting on a ladder match, I am so excited to see what's going to happen with this.
If you've watched, I brought it up before, the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks, when the Lucha Brothers won the championships.
Steel cage match.
The intensity that was in that match, the storytelling, the
blood, the
bloodshed,
the exhaustion,
the emotion that was involved in that.
Because this is 2 sets of brothers, you know. I think something that people forget about with these guys is, you know, you got 2 sets of brothers, and then you got Kenny Omega and Pac, who are 2 of the hardest hitting guys in wrestling.
Tell me those are not 2 of the most stubborn fighters in AEW.
Absolutely. In wrestling.
You literally have to damn near kill these 2 in ring, in kayfabe, in order to get the win on them.
Exactly.
Like the match between the tag team of 2 brothers and these 2 individuals, it's insane. I was one of those that I wasn't excited about this. I was like, really, we're gonna get 7? Because everybody knew it's gonna go to 7. You're not going to have your champion tag team and your top tag team not go 7. It just no way in hell, especially with where it was going to end. I'm very, very happy that there's no bullshit. There was no shenanigans. There were shenanigans in the idea that it's a wrestling show. But there was no, I don't know, like I felt like they did this right. I really felt like they did the build up good. I felt like they gave Death Triangle like all the momentum at first, but they gave like a little bit of hope for because they didn't make it super unbelievable to where the Elite didn't win a single match, because they could have gone 3-0 and then had the Elite win 4 straight. But you and I, we watch hockey enough. That's fucking damn near
Nobody
impossible.
Wants to see that either.
No person's team when you're going into game 4, where you're down 3 games, you're not going, boy, can't wait for game 5, because you're just going, well, game 5 is just going to be another tug on my heartstrings until inevitably
exactly. You're not looking forward to it.
No.
And I think that's what made this so exciting, was it made you want to watch the next match to see what was going to happen. They started it off well, but they ended it well, again, with the cinematic shots with the camera guys, Pac thinking that he won and then being super pissed when he realized he didn't. I think it was either Matt or Nick that was like standing over there in the ring next to Pac after he realized, it must have been Nick, that he didn't win, and Nick was just like
up,
7-7-7, like yep, like we did it, and it was just, I don't know.
Kenny Omega really selling the ass injury after they go through the 2 tables, like he was really limping.
Yeah,
I was expecting to see like a report of him having some injuries in his lower back to either be a legitimate injury or even just to sell the story.
Yeah,
I haven't been on the dirt sheets in like 2 days, so I'm sure they're probably flooded with them, but.
And again, there's a whole, Matt's hurt, his ankle.
Yep.
They developed that injury and made that be weaved through all of these matches.
And now you got to think, like, they've had to fight even harder these past 3 matches. They've had to do more than their competitors have in order to get these 3 wins to continue on in the series. So you have them being that exhausted. Fortunately, they have 2 weeks, and we will see that resolution at the January 11th Dynamite. I might have to take the work off the next day because that's gonna be a hell of a night.
And not to be that guy, you got to think about it. Let's be real here. Let's break the 4th wall down a little bit. Kenny Omega has to go all the way to Japan, fight Will Ospreay, come all the way home, and then a few days later fight in this match in LA.
That is true.
These guys are exhausted. Like, it's not going to be an easy victory if they do win it. And I do want to ask you one more time before this happens.
Okay.
Do you think that the Elite are still going to pick up this win?
I still believe that the Elite are going to get this win.
Okay. I don't think it could be a bad choice either which way. I think that whoever wins this, it's justified. Nobody can sit there and say, well, they did this and they did that and cheated and sneaked.
Right.
Like, no, there was 7 matches. That's a clear-cut winner.
I think the amount of star power that the Elite have right now compared to Death Triangle, whether it's good heat or bad heat, I think they're going to put the belts back on them. Okay, now we're on that real quick. I'm going to put a little offshoot with this.
Okay.
We haven't talked a lot about it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bring it up.
Okay.
So you put the belts on the Elite, hypothetically.
Okay.
Put the belts on the Elite. You have now put over the team that was stripped of their titles.
Right.
Following the all-out altercation at the media scrum.
Right. Which we still have never found out what happened.
Supposedly. This is all hearsay.
Right. Nobody aside from Ace Steel has been fired for this.
Right. And I don't think... we don't know the exact details. We know a general idea.
No.
And
apparently Dax does, but...
And yeah. So with that in mind, you put the belts on the Elite, the team that was a part of a possibly company changing event.
Right. That they're a part of creating in the first place.
Is CM Punk gonna show up?
God, a piece of me hopes so. Especially after Dax Harwood took off after William Regal's podcast and has been really pushing CM Punk and how he hopes everybody can kind of.
Yep, he did say,
agree to.
Yeah, he basically said he wants all 4 members, basically the Elite being the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, as well as CM Punk, to come together to figure out a way how to get through all of this. And I think all of us want that. Do we think it's going to happen? I don't think so.
I don't know.
It's either I don't think so, it's never going to happen, and we're never going to hear from CM Punk in an AEW ring again.
Right.
Or this is 100% a fucking work.
Right.
I don't know.
There's no clear-cut answer.
I don't know.
All these months later.
In 2023, it's insane to think like there's still the possibility of this is a work.
Yeah. But CM Punk has made jokes about it, like in some of the jobs he's had recently, like, you don't want me backstage,
he had that MMA commentary. He's tweeted out a handful of pictures of different AEW superstars. He's even retweeted a response to everything of making all parties get along.
Yeah, I saw that too.
He just retweeted it and said, duh. So it seems like either we're not getting the whole story.
No, we're not getting the whole story.
I mean, I know we're not getting the whole story. But do you think there's a possibility that Punk could be working an angle?
Yes. But I feel like if that would have happened...
What's the probability that would happen at January 11th?
I've thought about it.
Could you imagine the main event, right? Match 7, ladder match. The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega.
They finally executives. We haven't heard anything from anybody.
After being stripped of their titles unceremoniously.
Right.
After having to fight 7 matches to regain their gold.
Right.
To get to the top of the ladder. Kenny Omega pulls the title belts off of the thing. The music goes. It's fucking, Carry On My Wayward Son. The fucking confetti goes. And then you just hear fucking Cult of Personality cut through everything. And you just see CM Punk walk out. And that would make the entire wrestling world shit its little panties.
It would. They did like the long game with MJF. He said all that stuff. He said, fire me. Pretty much told Tony Khan, fuck you. Was suspended, air quotes, for like months. And then
he was never suspended.
Came back.
He was never suspended. It was theorized because the day he was supposed to come back, and he did come back, was just a day after the 90 days from when he would have been suspended. It was all coincidental, well, if you did the numbers.
Right.
So he never got suspended. But it sure as hell made sense, like it almost like he was.
Right, exactly.
I mean, they've done it before. They turned a shoot into a work.
Yeah.
And it's not unheard of.
What I find interesting, is right before that first match where the Elite came back and debuted again in AEW for the first time in months.
Right.
Before the match happened, there was some type of interview with Kenny Omega, and somebody had asked about CM Punk, and he basically said, we're not going to talk about it.
Yep. He said, let bygones be bygones.
Acted cool, calm, and collected.
Yep.
But the second
that match,
the 3 of them were walking down that ramp to get into the ring.
Yep.
They were just frothing at the bit to get everybody to basically cheer fuck CM Punk.
He did the GTS.
Yep.
Matt botched the
lariat. The buckshot, yeah.
And I think there was something else that they did.
There was the praying hands, which was a nod to CM Punk.
I think Nick did the praying hands before he jumped off, yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, like you said, Kenny Omega was 3-4 days off of doing an interview of letting bygones be bygones and letting things just lay where they are. And
I actually think it was the same day, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. It was either way. It was within that time frame of you shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
And then the bite. Kenny Omega bit Pac.
Yes. On the arm where he got bit.
The left arm where he had a bite mark from.
I mean, come on. I don't know.
And then, then that was it. That was the last you ever heard of it.
Yeah.
Dax ends up having a podcast. And the first thing he starts talking about is the CM Punk situation.
First episode, yeah.
I mean, granted, it was later in the episode. I ended up listening to it.
Sure, he could have talked about anything.
Tony Khan doesn't have an issue with that. I feel like, especially with the way that William Regal left AEW, to where he still had a few months left on his contract, went to Tony, said, hey, yada, yada, yada. And Tony was like, great, you've been a great asset. Let me grant you this favor.
Right.
Knowing the amount of the reach that he has, because he didn't have that podcast until he went to AEW.
Right.
Knowing the reach that he had, and then them turning it over to Dax Harwood. And the co-host he said he wanted to do a podcast with Dax anyways. You can't tell me that Tony Khan didn't know about that and didn't hear about the CM Punk episode and didn't hear about and granted, Dax didn't drop anything mind-blowing, oh my God, but it really was one of those things, if this was WWE, Vince McMahon would lose his mind over that. Of course,
but after the amount of things that Dax has done this year, he took that opportunity with that platform to talk about CM Punk. It was just really interesting.
Especially the first episode, knowing that there's going to be microscopes looking at that podcast. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at, is you have such a polarized event with him coming out with that podcast after all of this and talking about such a volatile topic. Maybe it was for the ratings. Maybe it's for the listens. Like maybe he's just being a good podcaster and picking a hot topic that he knows people are going to listen to. But I feel like something like that would have ruffled a few feathers in AEW.
Sure.
With such sensitive information that hasn't been released to the public.
And Tony Khan has never discussed it.
And like I said, I'm not saying that Dax has released any like, oh my God, it's blown the whole case open information, but it kind of gives you a little bit of a different look to the situation.
Right.
Back to the topic at hand, we are going to see a match 7, January 11th, Death Triangle versus the Elite for the AEW Trios Tag Team Championship. Wish I would have said that in one word, but I didn't. That's okay. But we will be seeing that January 11th, and if that's not the main event, I don't know what's going to be.
Oh, absolutely it will be, I'm sure.
Insanely excited to see that. I didn't think I would be at this point. I thought I would have been sick of this, but they have done this feud just right to make you want to see the next one.
They have, and now that it's a new year, AEW Dynamite and Rampage will be debuting like a new look.
Yep, everybody resets back to 0, and AEW will have, I guess, like a red and blue look.
Mm-hmm. It looks good. It's got like the laser lights kind of look. It looks really serious. It looks elevated. They're going to be changing up the logo a little bit.
If you've ever played Beat Saber,
yeah, very Beat Saber,
then it has that like 3D world look. I'm sure there's going to be countless laughs and pokes of fun at the fact that it's red and blue, just like SmackDown or Raw.
Their primary colors. What do you want, man?
I know, right? But yeah, that's going to be good. So we'll see that. Well, we'll see that this coming up week.
Yes, we will.
But we still have Ruby Soho and Willow Nightingale taking on Ty Conti and Anna Jay, and we finally get the answer to: are they still Tay J or Ty J?
And they are.
They are, but they're Ty JAS.
Ty JAS.
I hate it.
That's awful.
I don't know if I'm supposed to hate it, but I hate it.
Maybe. So I'm going to be honest. I wasn't really looking forward to this. I'm a big fan of Willow. That's my girl. Ruby Soho coming back. That's great. Obviously, I like Ruby Soho, and she's got the whole thing with Ty Conti, who took her out for several months by breaking her nose.
Poor nose.
That poor girl.
Flattened that thing
on the pre-show too. It was awful.
And if you watched it, like you saw it,
it was bad. You could tell Ortiz could tell instantly.
It took the breath out of my chest. I was like, ooh, because she got kicked in the nose or kneed in the nose and dropped. She didn't even take the bump. She straight dropped to the ground, and Ty had to make the most awkward cover on her.
Yeah, definitely was checking on her. It was bad. But at any rate, so there was some storyline within this, but it seemed like the stereotypical, here's two women and here's a tag team match.
Right.
It ended up.
Well, and all this is stemming from her losing the match previously.
Right.
Against Ty. Hey.
Yes. Or yeah, Ruby Soho had just picked up this win. What, Rampage last week?
No, she lost to her.
Oh, I thought she won.
No. She lost to Ty, and that's how this tag team ended up getting developed. And that's why Ruby's not really too happy about having to do a tag
Gotcha.
Or a one-on-one.
Well, that's what I really liked about this match, and it kind of snuck up on me was, Willow is like the sweetest person in the whole world, and she's like super happy, and she's smiling, she's waving, and she's got like the most fantastic smile. And Ruby comes out, and she just stands there and gives her like the most disgusted look.
Just very unhappy.
Yep, going super heel, looks like, and I liked it.
Yeah.
It vibed well, as weird as it was. It was a good tag team.
There was a lot of dissension between the two of them, though, and they hinted towards it a lot. Mm-hmm. And ended up they didn't end up getting the win either.
No, they didn't.
So I could see them doing a story between Willow and Ruby.
Yep.
I thought they were going to go the direction of making them a tag team, and I'm kind of glad they didn't.
Going back and talking about how the ending went down, we said previously that Ty had broke Ruby's nose.
Right.
So Ty did her finisher, which is the Ty KO, which is how she broke her nose previously.
Mm-hmm.
The weakest finisher I think I've ever seen in my life. She must have missed her by a mile, which I'm sure Ruby appreciated in the sense that she wasn't going to re-break her nose. But Lord have mercy, that was awful.
Yeah, the camera angle was bad and it translated bad. There was about a foot of space between her knee and her face.
It was bad.
Again, I don't blame her, but a shame.
There's a way to do it. Now, something we didn't actually discuss talking about previously, but did happen, was the night of this match was supposed to be Ty Conti and Sammy Guevara were supposed to defend their AAA mixed tag titles and didn't show.
Yeah, no call, no show.
Yeah, Conan said he was sending somebody to go and get the tag titles from them, stripped them of it, claimed that they had asked for special referees and for a stylist, makeup stylist and hairstylist for Ty Conti, and that they were just absolutely being ridiculous. So interesting. I feel like to be true.
I feel like it. I feel like that's a work. Personally,
yeah.
I couldn't see Tony Khan trying to have a good relationship with AAA.
Yeah, and booking a match the same night.
Yeah, and having, but I mean, FTR did just drop the AAA titles.
Yep.
The other day, so I mean that it could just be there on the outs with each other.
Yeah, that is true.
But who knows? But this match the match was good. I feel like the ending, like you said, the finish was weak, but I feel like the last 2 to 3 minutes of the match was just the girls looked like they were tired. Not lack of skill, just they were very winded. So the end of the match wasn't the greatest, but I'm sure we'll be seeing more of everybody pretty much.
All right, and to wrap up AEW Dynamite, let's talk about Samoa Joe versus Wardlow for the TNT Championship.
Your main event of the night, and it was interesting.
It was, and again, so let's remember, Wardlow's got the messed up knee. Samoa Joe comes out, does his, usual Samoa Joe strut to the ring.
Yep.
And Wardlow's music hits, and no Wardlow. Shows.
And up until this point, we still have not heard a medical update. Throughout the entire show, they keep leading towards it, saying that they're waiting. They don't hear anything. Wardlow's music plays, and nothing happens. Joe grabs the mic and starts saying, well, it looks like he chickened out, and,
stage fright.
I tried to find an opponent and couldn't find anybody, and all of a sudden Wardlow comes tearing ass through the back. You got medical personnel and staff, and I'll tell you what, he stuffed one of those security guards. I don't know if he did it by accident, but he tried to stiff arm the guy, and it looked like he hooked him right in the mouth. And he came out to the ring limping, jumped in the ring, and they started their match. And I mean, it was a pretty good match. They sold the knee injury for a little bit. Joe obviously focused on it. I think at one point Wardlow actually tweaked his other knee because he was limping on. You even said he's limping on the other knee. He must have forgot what knee. I was like, no, he tweaked the other one. You go back, he tweaked his other knee. And I think it was his left knee that was his good one that he ended up tweaking.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's wobbling on both legs. Great match. Really thought that it was gonna go Wardlow's way.
He hit the phenomenal swanton bomb that he's been doing lately. He even managed to powerbomb Samoa Joe. He's just so fucking strong. It's unreal.
Yep. He got one in.
Loving that.
He got one in. I think it was an assisted one. I don't know how. But I remember it wasn't one raw power bomb. But he went for a second one, went to lift him up. His legs gave out. And Samoa Joe just annihilated him. Ended up getting the win. And
rear naked chokehold.
Yep. And here we go with another. He makes him pass out.
Wardlow passes out.
Within seconds.
Okay. If they would have just done it here, I would have been okay with it. Because I like the way that Wardlow played it off. There's several ways that you can play off passing out.
Right.
And most people just eventually wake up and they get up and they walk off.
Yeah.
But Wardlow played it off really well that he grabbed Paul Turner's ankle.
Oh yeah,
he
was
did
disoriented.
Finally wake up. He was getting ready to grab a hold of him and start wrestling Paul. He was all confused. I liked that aspect of it.
Sold it really well.
It would have been really good for somebody like Samoa Joe to get that, but they didn't need to also do it at the beginning of the show. So the beginning of the show and the end of the show both had people passing out from the submission.
Right. Well, at the end of the match, Wardlow ends up waking up, clears the cobwebs out of his head, stands up, and it looks like there's going to be a little bit of sign of respect between the two of them. And Joe smashes him over the head with a belt and proceeds to not only beat him after the bell, but humiliate him as he goes under the ring, steals scissors from a toolbox, which if you have scissors in a toolbox, I don't know what you're doing with your life, and cuts off Wardlow's hair at pretty much probably.
Bun.
Yeah, I mean, his mantail, little ponytail he's got, but cut it pretty low. So you're probably going to see Wardlow with a shaved head come next week, maybe.
But does that mean we're going to see like a different side of Wardlow? Because that happens, a lot in wrestling where the hair determines the man.
A change in look, change in attitude.
Yeah, because they've got to do something with Wardlow. They've got to.
They built him up so well, and they put him up on a shelf, and they said, "Okay, now you get to look at him because that's all he does." They've plateaued him. Yep.
And again, Samoa Joe beat the absolute shit out of him at the end, and then here comes Darby Allin. Darby Allin's music hits. Samoa Joe just kind of stands there in the ring, getting ready to punch him, and Samoa Joe gets absolutely clobbered. Legit, he got
really hurt
with Darby Allin's skateboard. We
will be seeing Samoa Joe taking on Darby Allin on the January 4th edition of Dynamite.
In Seattle,
Darby's hometown.
Yes.
He also had a backstage segment with Sting where he doubted Sting's, belief in Darby, and Sting gave him a hell of a motivational speech and kind of smacked the shit out of him and said, "Get your head out of your ass and go win that title back."
Yep.
So there's going to be, that's Darby's, his only title that he's held in AEW.
But his reign was phenomenal when he was the TNT championship, because he was the type of guy, and so was Cody. You really got to give him credit too.
Oh, for sure.
That came out every single week and accepted a challenge.
And speaking of individuals that accept challenges, we'll move on to Rampage. Orange Cassidy takes on his friend Trent Barreta.
One of his best friends.
After this match, I don't know.
Yeah.
For the All-Atlantic Championship. And this was a great match. I really love this. We had Kip Sabian on commentary.
And Paul White.
And Paul White, of all people. The Big Show. Captain Insano himself. Great to have an additional person to have on there actually on commenting on that. I've heard that Tony Schiavone has actually numbered the amount of time he has left in AEW announcing and being active in wrestling. So we may be seeing a change in commentary here in the near future in a few years. And of course, Jim Ross is pretty high up there as well.
Of course, he said when he hits 50 years, then he's probably going to retire too.
And I think this is his final year of that.
I think that if we're going to talk about that for a moment, they have plenty of talent that will fit that. Absolutely. I think Chris Jericho is going to be one of those people, and he'll finally get to a spot where he's going to be the Christopher Daniels in the back, maybe commentary.
And of course, you got Excalibur, he's obviously not going anywhere.
One of the absolute stars. Honest to God, I love hearing Daddy Magic on the microphone. He's super entertaining.
I've really grown to like Taz, to be honest with you.
Taz is great.
Especially if you watch Dark, he's great on Dark. He's the goofiest dude on Dark. But honestly, I really enjoy Taz because he does have a lot of technical knowledge about the moves that's going on.
He does.
And the nuances of certain moves and why they work.
And how bad that they hurt. He'll tell you when that move happens, it makes your fingers tingle and it hurts so much. And you're like, oh, okay. That's why he's selling it like it hurts so bad.
It's so crazy that Taz, this jovial individual, I mean, granted, you see his mean streaks every once in a while, but for the most part, he's always laughing and joking. He was like a murderer. When you saw him, you're like, oh shit, that's Taz. You're gonna die, dude. You're going to die. He's going to rip your spine out of your body. That's Taz.
And now here he is singing Rancid, singing Ruby Soho's
theme
song.
Ruby. I love it. But we had Orange Cassidy taking on Trent. And this, I love this.
The setup for this was good, though. Let's talk about that really quick.
We had in a backstage segment between Kip Sabian basically talking shit to Orange Cassidy about how he's basically ducking him all the time. And Orange Cassidy goes, yeah, but you suck. Kip basically says he deserves a title shot.
Right.
Because he threw Orange Cassidy out of the Rumble.
Right. And that's when Trent Barreta said, well, if we're going to sit here and talk about the
who threw who?
Yeah, I threw you out. So Orange Cassidy looked over and said, you're right. Trent gets a shot first.
And lo and behold, here we are. And this is definitely pulling on the strings of friendship when it comes to the best friends, because Trent Barreta was not happy with this loss. Obviously, Orange Cassidy ends up picking up the win with not only a beach break, but had to hit him with the orange punch.
Which he hesitated to do. He did not want to do it. And Kip really made a good point on commentary. He said, do you really think that Trent Barreta would want Orange Cassidy to hold back? He would want Orange Cassidy to hit the orange punch. And he eventually does, but with a lot of hesitation. And also Chuck Taylor was really upset with Orange Cassidy that he was punching Trent, and it's like, well, what did you expect here?
Right, like what? It's his championship.
Yeah, like what did you expect? So Danhausen was definitely Team Orange, but everybody else was definitely Team Trent. So it seemed like there might be that breakup, which probably isn't the worst thing.
Well, the best friends were a heel faction for a little bit, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. But yeah, he ends up getting the win. Kip Sabian had a very short match after Orange Cassidy, and basically used his entire moveset and poked fun at Orange Cassidy the whole time. And I'm sure we're going to see that January 11th, Kip Sabian versus Orange Cassidy for the AEW All-Atlantic Championship. I've been excited to see Kip Sabian come back ever since he's been doing the boxing in the crowd.
He's great. Penelope's great, who did try to interfere in that match with Orange Cassidy and Trent.
That is how Orange got the win. He was able to, or she distracted Trent, thank you, and he got the orange punch with the 1, 2, 3, and so storyline seeds everywhere. Excited. I say it all the time. I know I must sound like an absolute mark for AEW and WWE when I mark out on these storylines, but really I get excited for this stuff. I watch it and I look forward to the next week, and I do. I look at the positive all this stuff, and I love it.
And that's what we try to portray here. Is there is some negative to both promotions, to all promotions,
of course.
But we're trying to highlight the really good things and the things that we like the most. Not really try to be negative. So
I think AEW has terrible long-term storytelling, and I think WWE has terrible capabilities of bringing up new talent.
Yes, but that's a whole different story. So let's talk about something that I wasn't necessarily looking forward to. Kiera Hogan versus Jade Cargill. I know Kiera hasn't really been my favorite.
You've been very critical of Kiera Hogan's performance ever since she's gotten to AEW.
And I think she used to be on Impact as well. Like she's done some wrestling.
She had a very successful run in Impact, and I think that's what gave her the repertoire to get into AEW and got signed for AEW. Was I think that her run through the Impact. I know very little about it. Yeah. I know very little of Impact the past couple of years.
Yeah, she is Diamante's girlfriend.
Right, which we haven't seen on AEW television in a hot minute.
No, maybe Dark. We haven't been watching a lot of Dark because we've been super busy with everything else. But she had a match with Jade Cargill
for the TNT Championship,
yes,
TBS Championship.
Thank you for the TBS Championship. Former baddie, and I think that was just the string holding all of this together was that she used to be a baddie, and Jade let her go.
And I feel like we went into this match thinking, oh, this is going to be a real quick one because you have after this
like
Swerve
they always
versus
are.
Yuta. You figured, okay, you're going to have a lot of time to the main event. I was very happy with this match.
Jade had to work her ass off on this one to get the win.
She did.
One thing that I really liked about this match, though, was that Kiera and Jade were outside of the ring, and Layla Gray was holding Kiera.
Yep.
And Jade went to go, I think, like, slap Kiera, and Red Velvet caught Jade's arm and looked at her, and Jade was kind of just like, what the hell? Like, why'd you stop me?
Do it again.
And she stopped her again.
Yep. And then which opened a window for Kiera to hit her.
Right. So that was interesting. And then after Jade got the win, Red Velvet just walked off.
Yeah, it went right up the ramp, and even Jade looked very confused in the ring, like where the hell is Red Velvet at?
Yeah. This might be an opportunity for Red Velvet to come in here and fight Jade. I think Red Velvet is a much better face than she is a heel. Not that she's a bad heel. She's a great heel.
Right.
But she's a really, really good face, and I think that she needs to be over, and she needs to come back to what she was before she was part of the baddies and establish herself and have a really good match with Jade. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, before she does that, she needs to actually have a good chemistry with her, because next week she's going to have a tag match with her and Jade against Kiera Hogan and Sky Blue.
I think that's just going to, again, just add more fuel to the flame here.
Oh, yeah. But
I don't think they're gonna team very well on this one. And for our AEW Rampage main event, we had Swerve Strickland taking on Wheeler Yuta.
This is set up from Renee Paquette was interviewing Swerve and his two new affiliates, which one of them are obviously Parker Boudreaux. The other one, they haven't named him yet on AEW, but if you do some digging around, we found out he is a former baseball player turned pro wrestler, I guess. He's been in contract with AEW for a few months now. They've just now decided to use him. I don't know what they're going to call him. I know he's got something to the effect of, I don't know, like Kowalski Killer or something like that on his
Swerve
Instagram.
said something about Killa.
Yeah,
Killa.
yeah.
You'll see him soon.
But they had an interview backstage with Renee, and they were actually interrupted by Wheeler Yuta, basically calling Swerve a piece of trash for his behavior. And
yeah, he said that he didn't like how he treated Keith Lee during
Right.
the final battle. That he was just basically a piece of trash.
Yep.
And said, if you want something dirty, we know about dirty in the Blackpool Combat Club, and let's go toe to toe on Rampage. It was not for the belt.
No.
But
which a lot of people I did see had an issue that a ROH champion did take a loss in a normal one-on-one match. I don't know. I guess you're nitpicking at shit here.
I think that's okay here. Like, I really do. Like, I think somebody like Swerve is not obviously known as an independent wrestler here, like on his own in that circumstance. Like, he's known to be in the tag team with Keith Lee, and he did a really good job with that. But now it's his opportunity to be a singles competitor.
Right.
And show off what he can do. And honestly, I think this was my favorite match I've ever seen of Swerve in AEW.
Right.
I really loved it. Him and Wheeler did a phenomenal job.
Oh, yeah.
Now, one thing that was really funny that happened beforehand, every time that the main event happens in Rampage, you don't watch Rampage, which you really should. Mark Henry always does.
What are you still listening if you don't watch Rampage?
I don't know why you don't. It's honestly great, and they've been doing a great job of bringing top-notch entertainment to a 1-hour show. But there's an interview with Mark Henry that always happens before the main event, and Jon Moxley actually makes a mention to Swerve that Killshot is one of his favorite wrestlers.
And Killshot is the name that Swerve used to go by when he was in the Lucha Underground.
Which, if you've never seen Swerve in Lucha Underground, again, wow.
You don't see Swerve. You see Killshot.
Killshot, yes.
But yeah, this match was good. Swerve ended up taking the win.
I love heel Swerve.
Yeah, heel Swerve's good. I like it.
It's really good. He shines as a heel. The laughter, like the way his promos come off. That back kick that he does, that he did to Wheeler's head.
Nasty. Nasty.
We rewatched it, and then Mark had to rewind that part like 5 times because it just, you feel it in your soul.
Well, I missed it the first time. I was looking down, and then we went back and watched it, and I then had to watch it 3 or 4 times. I was like, that's not the same kick. Like, my God. I thought he broke his head off.
Now, at some point, Stefan Smith, who is the referee for this match, does get knocked out. I think Wheeler Yuta pushed Swerve into Stefan, so he was not really paying attention. And then Swerve...
Yeah, he was like recovering in the corner.
Yep, Swerve did end up kicking Wheeler right in the newts.
Ooh, he straight... boy, it was a straight punt kick. He put everything into that kick.
Yes, he did.
I don't know how Wheeler's still talking at the normal level.
Nobody in AEW was pulling punches this week.
No, not at all.
They said, it's the end of the year. Make people hurt. Make sure people have visible injuries for the new year.
Last televised, TV wrestling event.
Yep. Look at what happened with the women's match last year.
Right.
But it was great, and like you said, yeah, Swerve actually picked up the win, and I'm not mad at it.
No,
I'm not mad Wheeler lost. I think this was again really good for Swerve.
Right.
I still think Wheeler looked great. It wasn't like Wheeler had a bad loss. I mean, he got kicked in the newts.
Yep.
What are you gonna do?
Well, that'll do it for AEW for this week. We do have Dynamite on the 4th coming up. We'll have Tony Nese taking on Bryan Danielson. There was a backstage segment with Mark Sterling and the Premier Athletes. Premier Athletes? What are they called? The Varsity Athletes? The Varsity Premiers? I don't know what the hell they are now. Tony Nese and Josh Woods. Somehow, I guess, Mark Sterling's going above and beyond past MJF and is having Tony Nese fight Bryan Danielson next week. We also have The Acclaim will be taking on Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. They debuted a music video on Dynamite previously, which go back and watch it. It's funny, and it takes a hell of a shot at Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, yeah.
In regards to his wife and him stealing her from Kurt Angle years ago. We also have, like I said, we talked about before, Kiera Hogan and Sky Blue will be taking on Red Velvet and Jade Cargill in tag team action. Samoa Joe and Darby Allin for the TBS, God damn it, the TNT Championship. I never get them right. And then we have Ricky Starks taking on Chris Jericho after Chris Jericho invited Ricky Starks to the JAS. And
yep, he declined.
He called him a bunch of jassholes.
I've got to be honest, though. They are really hyping that match.
What, between Ricky and Jericho?
Yes.
Yes, they are.
Yes. A lot of promos, a lot of, if you follow them on social media, it's really being plugged.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're really going to put on a good show for the first show of the year. So looking forward to covering that, really.
Yeah. This will be the end of our 2022 coverage of wrestling.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Next, I mean, it is 2023 right now, but
yeah,
the
we'll
next
be covering
show will be
SmackDown for
oh, that's right. We'll be talking about SmackDown, so we're not done with 2022 yet.
A brief touch with, we'll
be touching in two
WWE.
different years. 2 different years, 2022, 2023. SmackDown Raw, that will be coming out Wednesday-ish. Should be. But thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed what you've heard and you'd like to hear more, make sure you subscribe to Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts.
And be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. And tell a friend about us. The best way for us to grow and bring you even more content every week is by word of mouth. Or just share us on your social media pages.
And of course, remember to follow at CAW Wrestling Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, where we repost every podcast in video format, and we live tweet along with AEW and WWE shows and pay-per-view.
Follow me on Twitter. I'm at A Bacon Party.
I'm at Gunk Dudley. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard and you'd like to hear more, make sure you subscribe to Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. God damn it, I said podcasts!
That was really good, though.